Okay, brilliant. Let's get cracking. So welcome to this End Digital Poverty Day webinar. It's my pleasure to welcome Jess Flack, Digital Inclusion Lead Officer at Essex County Council. For those of you who are new to the Digital Poverty Alliance, we're a non-profit committed to eliminating digital poverty across the UK by 2030. So our mission is to bring together businesses, government and individuals to ensure everyone has equal access to digital resources in today's online world. Our mission, I like to think, transcends technology, and it's about unlocking human potential and fostering inclusivity. So yeah, welcome Jess. Do you want to give us a brief intro, an overview of who you are and what you do?
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on today. I'm Jess Flack. I'm the Digital Inclusion Lead Officer for Essex County Council. Been in the role for about a year and 4 months now. Enjoy it, something new every day, and it's my opportunity to give back, which is a golden thread that's run throughout my career. So really enjoying it.
Brilliant, and it's great to have you here today, and thank you so much for showing your support for End Digital Poverty Day. Just a quick note and housekeeping. Obviously, please do introduce yourselves in the chat and say who you are, where you're tuning in from, and also we do have the Q&A functionality enabled today. So if you do have any questions for Jess throughout the session, just pop them in there, and then we can get to those at the end. And if we don't have time, because I know we've got a lot to get through, then I can include Jess's email in the follow-up email with recording, so you can always reach out to Jess directly to find out a little bit more about what we talk about today. So without further ado, I will jump straight into some questions for you, Jess.
Yeah.
So yeah, can you provide us a bit of an overview of Essex County Council's approach to tackling digital poverty and inclusion? So how does it differ from traditional approaches?
Thank you. Yeah, and just in case anybody's looking, going, why is she looking over there? I've got my notes up on the right-hand side because I've got so much to talk to you about. So if I look a bit over there, that's what I'm doing. I have to hold my hands up to that one. So we actually look at the 3 A's. We focus on access, affordability, and adoption of skills. And my challenge was, when I first joined the role, was to come into the role without a budget. Really to map out existing provision, work with it and strengthen what was already there through things like joint funding bids, etc. But actually that's the best way to do it as far as I can see, because then you can understand what currently exists and you decrease the likelihood of any duplication. So you can look to connect offers together and increase the impact of what they actually do within the local community. Things that sort of exist in isolation don't usually go very well. So really it's just about going with the grain and not against it. We work really well with our community volunteering service and other providers, and they know the people that they work with on the ground inside out. We give them more than we take, so we regularly engage with those providers to let them know about the offers that can support their work, whether it's funding, whether it's little social media toolkits, whether it's new opportunities, for example, things like Capgemini and the work that they're doing. I'm going to give a shout out to Monju Mia, who's putting together some workshops for Train the Trainer right now, and they're fantastic. And without that support and engagement, nobody's going to grow or get better or make the impact possible. So bringing all those things together and creating those relationships is super important to us. So then once you've mapped out the provision, we then have been starting to look at gaps. So we understand where our highest areas of digital poverty are. So similar to that of the digital exclusion risk indicator tool, and then identify where provision might be lacking, or perhaps where provision and need are there, but the two just aren't connected. We've developed an interactive map that enables residents to find out where to go for help getting online with a fabulous little tool called Padlet, and I can talk to you about that in a little bit. But both of those things will feed into a digital triaging tool that we're currently developing out. We're also a network ambassador for the Good Things Foundation, really exciting role. It gives us the opportunity to connect with digital hubs across the UK, sharing knowledge and best practice and connecting them to organisations that can support their work. For example, SimPal, ScreenShare, and many, many more that we're working with at the moment. So hopefully that's just a brief little overview of what we've done there. just to quickly update you on those two, so SimPal provide people in need with mobile devices, SIM cards and MiFi and ScreenShare, who are supporting refugees and people seeking asylum with digital skills and devices. And of course, we're aligning ourselves with the Digital Poverty Alliance's National Delivery Plan in pretty much everything that we do. And we love to shout out about that as well, because with a little peer pressure, everybody will hopefully do the same.
Brilliant. And I mean, like you say there, like community organisations and people that are doing work on the ground are key to providing support to individuals. I know we talk about multiple facets of digital poverty, so it's important to be able to create a cohesive support system for people, because one organisation might provide devices, one organisation might provide support. So to be able to bring all those together is just going to provide a much better level of support for those people who are living in digital poverty. Exactly, and yeah, it sounds like Essex are forging those connections and collaborations and partnerships with those existing initiatives really well. We're a big believer in eliminating duplication, as you say. It's one of our sort of mottos from day one. So brilliant to see local authorities sort of adopting that approach, because as we all know, I think on the call, tackling digital poverty, the actual support is so time, energy and cost intensive because it requires so much in-person support. So to be able to bring those all together, it's just going to save everyone so much more resources. Brilliant. So moving on from that, how does Essex County Council ensure that their digital inclusion initiatives are sustainable for the long term?
Okay, so there's a number of different things that I could cover with this question. One of the things that we look to do is really about reciprocity. So I wrote an article a little while back on LinkedIn, and it was all about digital inclusion and social value being the power couple of 2023. And it's really important to us. So we've got a really fantastic team who work around social value and use a version of the TOMS calculator, which is themes, outcomes and measures. And what it enables us to do is to work with organisations who are either suppliers in or want to sort of contract into us, to say these are the things that we need in Essex. And then if you can do these things with us, then we can help you calculate the social value that kind of then enables you to win more business, etc., within your local area. So it's that reciprocity that is enabling us to do much more. We can help them with PR. I'm going to give a shout out to my amazing Digital Essex team who have the best abilities in social media. I think Amy's on the call. I hope she's smiling right now. But we really are a lovely team. We work really hard together. And what we do is we work with our organisations to develop little toolkits for them to be able to share information. We send regular updates to them, and there's several other things that I'm going to cover in a little bit to show how we work together and help. We also look at joint bids, so a more joined up approach, especially those that look to strengthen an existing offer. It makes it an easier pill to swallow when it comes to funding, if you're all kind of working together. So through the creation of an interactive map of Essex's digital inclusion landscape, that's like going to be a really exciting thing for us to do, and that's the next thing we're going to cover. But all of these things work together in one kind of massive, lovely, I like to call it like a sort of patchwork quilt. And when you bring all of those things together, that's how it kind of leads into the next bit that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I was going to say it's all about fostering those connections and working together. Alone, we have very little impact, but together we can make such a huge difference. So you mentioned the interactive map of your digital inclusion landscape in Essex, which is super exciting. So how does it empower individuals and communities in Essex, and how has it helped the council identify gaps in digital support? For instance, can you share any specific examples of how this information has been utilised to improve digital inclusion efforts in the county?
So our map, we've used something called Padlet, which is actually a free tool. You can get a paid for tool, but it enables you to do lots of mapping. You can share resources, all of those types of different things. So I would definitely say have a look at that as a tool if you haven't looked at it before. It provides residents and other organisations with information on where they can go for access to public network computers in libraries with free Wi-Fi, of course, as well as free digital skills classes that might be happening in local communities. national data bank hubs that we've set up, or ones that already existed. And basically all of those providers, we map that out, and it comes up as a little pinpoint. And then each pinpoint itself, behind that, it turns into almost like a little service card that you can have as an Excel spreadsheet. And that's what we're planning to use as the sort of back-end information that goes into a digital triaging tool. There are a number of different ways. So people say to me, well, how do you keep that up to date? Because things, close and funding ends. It's about those relationships that you develop. So the more you foster those relationships with organizations, the more likely they are to come back to you and say, look, Jess, could you take that down? Because that's not happening anymore, for example. So we develop those relationships with our community volunteering services and other providers. And Amy really supports around Digital Inclusion Initiative of the Month. So another amazing colleague of mine, Josh, who supports and is just endless amounts of fun, reining me in when I really need it. We work together and we speak to local organisations and we say, hey, look, the stuff that you're doing out there in Malden or Colchester is fantastic. We'd love to tell more people about it. And then we run this Digital Inclusion of the Month on social media for them. So it raises awareness, gives them a bit of traction and PR, and then hopefully peer pressures other organisations to go, oh, can we have some of that? And then they've contacted us and said, we'd like to be part of the map too. So in terms of how the map has been used to improve digital inclusion efforts, we've got examples of organisations where they were previously unaware of what was happening in and around their local area, apart from what they were doing. And they've been able to signpost more effectively. So they've taken what we've shown them and said, oh, well, that person needs that, we can send them there. So we're already starting to make those connections. And just to kind of point out that, again, that Padlet tool, it's not expensive. And, we've got a version that, yes, we paid for it, but it's next to nothing in terms of how much actual impact it's made for us. With a bit of elbow grease, you can really make these things work. So we're also enabling our CVSs and providers to get in touch with us. So anything they hear about and are interested in, we offer to connect them up with the project owner. Good examples would be things like Code Your Future, which we're looking at the moment, an amazing opportunity that we've heard about through Capgemini. And I just basically have these conversations and I sit there and I listen and I kind of say, right, who can I get you in contact with? I push them through to those people. And, I'm speaking with people like James McKee in Renfrewshire and saying, oh, could we do this with you? And having a conversation with John Duncan, who I know is on the call today, about something else. And it's just that fabulous networking community that we have in this space. I've never, ever met people like it. Everybody just wants to help. So connecting that massive network together is a real pleasure and a joy. So hopefully I have covered that question.
Definitely. And one of our ambassadors, Freddie Queck, uses the phrase joining the dots. And I think that applies here. Plenty of dots around. And if we join them all together, then yeah, again, the impact can be immense. I've already seen in the chat as well, Donna from AbilityNet has asked to be added to the map. So already making those connections, Jess. Nobody's stopping you. But yeah, I can imagine the public services and, say, for instance, job centres and things like that. I can imagine this tool and map will be such a great help if people are coming in with need for devices and support like that as well.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Yeah, so I mean, a lot of the questions have covered it, but I think just if I ask it explicitly, so in your experience at Essex County Council and any other roles that you have had, what role do you think partnerships and collaboration play in effectively tackling digital poverty?
I think any big societal problem can't be tackled in isolation by just one entity. Man is an island. And digital poverty is a huge issue. I often talk about it as this giant octopus with its tentacles and everything. And even if you're not directly affected, there will be somebody that you know or interact with who is. So it affects so many people of different ages, backgrounds, and the pandemic and cost of living crisis have really just helped to widen that gap, unfortunately. There is no one size fits all. We've done a lot of programs recently where we looked at pilots, and actually that's really just, shown us how important it is to think about an individual group and their needs before you kind of say, oh, just chuck this at them. So when you work in collaboration and partnership with other organizations, it just strengthens your ability to tackle problems as a whole. Because when you start having conversations, they might say, well, have you thought about this? And actually, we could help you within this area as well. And we've really found as well that funding can be fractured. It's usually time bound. So longevity and sustainability can only be achieved through fostering and maintaining relationships, having your ear to the ground and being part of the conversations and not being afraid to ask the question. So going with that mentality of, I'm going to ask. And if you shut the door, that's fine. You know, what have I lost? So yeah, I usually like to ask lots of questions. So working with larger organizations on collaborative opportunities is really, really critical to be clear with your focus and what you can offer in return. So I talked about that reciprocity, and we all have that ability to share, to solve problems, etc. and so on. It's important for us to understand what we can give and receive. So business is business. So if there's a way that you can support a business in offering PR and things like that, you know, both parties should be able to win. An example of how this works in practice is local authorities would be able to offer some PR around social value calculations, and I've mentioned about them, those two being a sort of power couple. In Essex, when developing collaborations, we start with our strong supplier base. So we link this to our social value work and we go from there as well. So really looking at who are your suppliers into your local authority and how you can make more from the impact from the contracts that you have, etc. And again, just, you know, what can you possibly ask that they might say no to? Probably not a huge amount. The challenges around working with suppliers is that you need to funnel your requests and your asks in through maybe one person, because otherwise you run the risk of annoying with lots of asks. So if you can collaborate, like our skills team through Ruth Gilbert are doing some amazing stuff around putting together almost like a framework, like an ask list, because they do lots of work with NEETs in schools and, you know, careers and all of this sort of stuff. And we can combine what they do with what we need so that we have just one central ask. So that's really, really critical part to that relationship and managing that, I think. I hope I've answered that one.
No, definitely. And like you say, I was even having a conversation the other day with Gail Harvey from Norfolk County Council.
I love Gail.
Yeah, she's great. But we were talking about our Tech for Family scheme, and just through a conversation with somebody who worked with the people that we're trying to help, we were sort of made aware of more requirements for certain technology for schools and certain courses for school-aged children. Yeah. So, you know, that those conversations and those partnerships, just everyone's there to help, and it's so important. I think you touched on it really briefly there, is to ask what these people actually need support with, because if we don't ask, we assume, and it's the same with any kind of service design, right? You need to know what the problem is that you're trying to solve for these individuals and these people. So
having the user at the heart of the experience, yeah, is really important.
Exactly. So I mean, through your conversations, partnerships, and your work at Essex, what challenges have you encountered during your digital inclusion journey? So what advice might you give to other local authorities or organisations who are just beginning their digital inclusion journey?
So I mentioned at the start of the conversation that I joined my role, and the challenge was you won't have a budget for this. Make the stakeholder map, have the conversations, and see what we can pull together and strengthen. It's wholly possible. It's absolutely possible, because that's what we've achieved, and we're still not asking for any more money at the moment. We do have other things that we can kind of work with, and funding opportunities, etc., that we're pulling in. And as we sort of strengthen our team, we're able to do that a bit more. So mentioned before about, you know, tackling and funding streams, and they're not always obvious. So it's taken me some time to get my feet fully under the table to really understand what's happening in Essex, take cues from some best practice from the rest of the UK, and really begin to formulate that plan. I've done a number of things, including putting together a promoting digital inclusion group on LinkedIn. And that's just a way for me to kind of get that message out there. Like, I've heard about this. Do you want to get in contact with these guys? And hopefully that's really helpful and a support. So now I'm better informed about our Essex offer. When funding streams are made available, I'm much more able to identify the foundations of a bid. So in my head, I'll go, well, those guys are doing that there, they're doing that there. I need to pull those two together and then maybe offer them this. And like I said, you know, really having that opportunity to build on strong foundations so that you're not reinventing the wheel, that seems to go down much better with funding, is not creating something new, but strengthening what you've already got and what exists. It makes bigger and more lasting impact. So my advice would be to spend some time learning from other colleagues in the space first. Again, I can't tell you how amazing, you know, there's no words to tell you how amazing the people are who work in this space and genuinely want to help and support. But just be open to conversations, connect with people, and have a policy of if you don't ask, you don't get. If you're curious, ask those questions. You know, they're always willing, people are always willing to give you their time and help, and no question is a stupid question. I always used to say this when I was teaching, that when my students would say, oh, I don't want to ask questions, people think I'm stupid. How many other people in the room probably have the same question but are scared to ask? So by helping, you know, ask that question, you're helping the people sitting next to you that are too shy to ask that. So always ask. There are some great sort of collaborations that you can already get involved with. So things like Libraries Basecamp. Now, libraries are integral to everything that I'm doing at the moment with digital inclusion, whether it's sort of stakeholder mapping or moving people into different spaces for support, the public network computers they've got, the volunteers that we have. Libraries, I think 70% of them have Learn My Way across the whole of the UK. So Libraries Basecamp is a great place to be, to ask questions, to share knowledge and best practice. Obviously, the Digital Poverty Alliance yourselves, fantastic. Good Things Foundation and Grace Parks, so the Perks over at the LGA are brilliant in putting on events and forums to follow. Free, so just do it, put some time in. And then obviously there's research and reports that come out as well that are really important in sort of helping to share and tell stories about why the work that you're doing is really important, so that you can continue to get sort of funding if you need to. Again, I've mentioned already that stakeholder mapping is critical in this space, local and national. It's always a good idea to understand who's doing what and where. That will change and it will update. So this role is never dull. And your knowledge will constantly have to evolve around that. It will also enhance your ability to connect the dots for greater impact. So yeah, just be inquisitive, ask questions, consider who might need to know about the work. Trust is always fostered through the support that you can give to somebody else. So yeah, if you're on LinkedIn, I've created a Promoting Digital Inclusion group that you're welcome to join, where we share advice, best practice and opportunities to build out our services across the UK, as well as sharing good news stories, which is always nice. Gail from Norfolk has some amazing good news stories, things that you would never expect to come out from digital support. And those types of things are really, really key in really making big players understand that this is happening in their patch, and you know, it's not something that's going to go away unless we do something about it. So yeah, I think I've covered that one.
Yeah, definitely, and like you say, it's a human issue. It's not a technical issue. So to put those people at the forefront of the storytelling and the value that all of our work has is crucial, especially for stakeholders, funders. It's those human stories that really do resonate, I think, especially with the general public as well. And we're huge big believers in best practice and sharing that. At the Digital Poverty Alliance, we've got our obviously our online community hub, where we have loads of like-minded individuals from so many different industries that you can reach out to. You know, you can share your own experiences, you can request and try and find support from others as well. So please do join the community hub. I'll pop a link in at the end of this session. And then also, obviously, you mentioned all the research and things like that go into this work. Again, huge believers in the evidence-based solutions. A lot of funding and bids and things like that, they want to see the evidence behind the solution that you're presenting. So we also have a research and insights directory where people can share their research, and also where you can find some of the latest digital inclusion research and reports. So do check that out. I'll pop a link in as well. So, I mean, some brilliant work going on at Essex County Council already, but I'm sure that there's more in the pipeline. So looking ahead, what are the future goals and aspirations of the Essex County Council regarding digital inclusion? And are there any new initiatives or strategies on the horizon that you can share with us?
So there's a big one that we need to talk about, and I'm kind of thinking that it might not be talked about enough at the moment, and that is we're working with our districts and boroughs with the strategy and comms needed around the analog to digital switchover, which is already happening. In some places it's happened, and perhaps things haven't gone quite to plan, because copper kind of runs through things like traffic lights and lifts and various different things that you wouldn't necessarily think they're there. And once that's switched off, it won't work unless we do something about it. So we're working on that at the moment, to make sure that we have a clear strategy and communication that really enables people to understand what's happening and how they can help, sort of get help to cover that. We've been working on a program to train people seeking asylum as digital champions, so I'm really excited about this piece of work. What we've done is we've created a program that will enable volunteers to work with a local provider, building out the volunteering support that they can offer in the local community. So once they're trained, they can have enhanced DBS checks, and they can actually go into the community and work as digital champions. So it gives that opportunity to gain employability skills, citizenship, which is looked upon favourably for visa applications, confidence, and an opportunity to help break down cultural barriers, better integrating into society. So it's multifaceted, really, the reasons why I wanted to sort of work with this group. And if we prove that this concept works and scale it up, digital champions, whether they move to other locations across the UK, will have an opportunity to support their local community. So when I talked about the fact that I've built lots of really fantastic connections, I am confident that if I train up digital champions, people seeking asylum in Essex, and they move to Bracknell or Norfolk or Manchester, I can have a conversation with people there and say, look guys, heads up, we've got some amazing digital champions coming your way. They might want to work in your local community, so they automatically have that connection and can move a little bit easier. The organisations that we've been working with include Barclays Digital Wings, so they helped with the training platform, with our amazing NEDAST digital access support team in Colchester and Tendring. We've worked with RAMA, so that's the Refugees and Migrants Action Group. And we've also worked with Colchester Institute, who were amazing in providing us a free space. That was a trusted face, trusted space for our people seeking asylum to actually go and take the training. Before we started on this journey, we had a conversation with Lois Davies, I think it is, from the Red Cross, because she launched an article about people seeking asylum being on that kind of lowest rung of the ladder in terms of digital exclusion, having no access to Wi-Fi and connectivity, poor digital skills, which means poorer access to health, poorer health outcomes, mental health issues, all of those types of things. And for me, this space is an opportunity to show that we've got this situation, and it is a difficult, politically fraught situation, but actually there are people coming into the UK that don't come unskilled. And many of them do want to help and to actually do something. And obviously they can't be paid for their work. So volunteering is a great way to help integrate back into society, to give of their time, but also to give them critical skills that they will need if they do want to be able to flourish in the UK economy going forward. So I'm super, super proud of the pilot that we've put together, and we're currently doing a wash up at the moment to look at where we can go next. But our focus is really on creating some longevity here. So we're looking at how, once we've got trained digital champions, we can have a train the trainer system, and obviously working with people who have lived experience. So you can look at homeless people and all sorts of different disadvantaged groups. You've already got that connection, and hearing it from someone who's lived that experience is way more powerful than perhaps me kind of coming in and going, oh, I'll teach you digital inclusion stuff. So yeah, it's a really super exciting piece of work, and we're looking really to connect more and see what we can kind of do going forward. We're also focusing our efforts on working with young people as digital champions who are digital natives and are way better equipped to do a lot of digital stuff than I would ever be. But it's an opportunity for them to share their knowledge and expertise where, for example, they might already be doing with this with their nan and granddad. Oh, let me show you how to put that on your app, nan. I'll show you how to pay for your parking. It's an opportunity to better connect with local communities. I personally feel like we need more opportunities for our young people to engage with the community so that they feel part of something that's bigger than themselves. And this is a great way to do that. It can build their CVs, their confidence, all those skills that have really been pushed by the wayside with the pandemic, where we've got shops closing, that they're struggling now to go and find those part-time jobs that you and I would have gained those skills from. So yeah, that's another really exciting opportunity that we're looking at. There can be a focus around Duke of Edinburgh, because if you think about that group, part of their role, their opportunities and the things that they need to get involved with means that they should be out in the community doing that work. So yeah, a couple of really exciting things that we're doing. We're creating more of a sort of comprehensive strategy around digital inclusion as well, linking in with all of our local partners, our anchor institutions, the NHS, etc. So it's an exciting time to be alive and part of Essex County Council right now.
I was going to say, what aren't you guys doing? It all
Not
sounds
a lot.
this all sounds so exciting, and I mean the refugee and asylum seeker work is just incredible, because like you say, there's so many people that come over with so many skills, and the UK talk about this digital skills gap that we have, and to be able to build digital skills within a community using those people who are trying to find their place in the society and community is just so important. And the word you used was integrate, and I think that's such a good use of the word, is to help them integrate into their community and give something to their community as well. I think it's such a brilliant initiative, and I'm so excited to see the outcomes and findings from that pilot. So do share any findings with us, and we'd be really happy to share, because I think our community would be really interested. And yeah, the DV stuff, I remember doing volunteering at a local charity shop, but there's just so many young people that, like you say, I remember helping my grandparents with digital, still help my parents with digital. So it'd be a good way to also teach younger people to be a little bit more patient with training as well, because I think there's a whole knack to it, and especially if you're helping your parents, or there's a tendency to become a little bit frustrated, but in the community sense and with people that you don't know as well, I think it'll be a really good way to get them to appreciate the whole sort of leap that technology has come in the past sort of 10 years or so, let alone back in your grandparents' days with the phones that you do this with.
Well, I think I've still got one somewhere, but it might be a Fisher Price one, not a real one.
But yeah, I'm really excited to hear more about that when that comes to fruition. So yeah, I 2 more questions left for you. I'm really conscious that we want to get to some of the questions in the Q&A as well, so I'll speed through these. So based on your experience, so what are the most important factors to consider when addressing digital poverty at a community level? As I said, I think that's one of the most important levels to address it at.
So stakeholder mapping, I'm probably kind of going back over exactly what I've said way at the top of the meeting, but stakeholder mapping, engaging with those stakeholders, going with the grain and not against it, and connecting the dots. So I think there would be like the strap lines for this piece. It's really important to consider the bigger picture as well, because we found that the journey from digital exclusion to integration breaks down between organisations. So you need to kind of be on it and connecting those things together. So yeah, it really goes back to the concept that no man is an island, and that we need to work together more. And we don't know what we don't know, so now is the time to ask.
Brilliant. That was a lovely little snippet there. So yeah, lastly, probably a call to action from you. So how can individuals, whether they're educators, community leaders or citizens, get involved and support the digital inclusion efforts of Essex County Council? Are there any specific opportunities for collaborations or any ways that they can contribute?
Absolutely. So digital inclusion engagement. So we're working to support something called the Essex Renewal Project, which was an independent research piece that's championed several different initiatives and outcomes for Essex, including some around digital inclusion. So what we're doing is we're setting up stakeholder engagement in terms of more sort of task and finish groups that kind of are pulled into conversations that are a little bit more strategic, higher level, so that the two can kind of feed up and feed down to each other. So if the strategic group says, I think we need this, and then we put it through into that task and finish group, and they say, but we've already got it there, we just need to make it better. You know, you're not wasting your time, energy, or funds. Then we've got volunteering. So I love Simon Sinek. And if he's watching, I have tried to connect with you and don't know your email address. So if you could ping it to me, I'll totally connect. There's no better act of service than giving your time to teach someone how to do something. And we're always looking for digital champions to support our work. So the act of service is something that Simon Sinek talks about a lot. Collaborative working in partnership is absolutely key to everything that we do. So any organisation that wants to get involved with what we're doing here in Essex, I'm all ears. Connect with me on LinkedIn. We'd be more than happy to have a conversation. And we're working with our broadband suppliers, creating community hubs. That's another really super exciting piece of work. So if in your patch you have broadband suppliers who are supplying into your local area, putting in new connectivity that might be connecting up village halls, for example, create a community hub, have some devices delivered in, and get some volunteers, use Learn My Way, get going. So that's one of the things that we're looking at the moment. With our digital inclusion map and engagement, would you like to be on it? Want to use it? Do you want to signpost other people to it? Simple. We have a digital triaging tool that's coming, so that's going to take the map information as back-end support, and it will help to identify much more of an end-to-end user journey that will really change things and help to connect already amazing work that the community of volunteers and charities and businesses are offering support around. So if you wanted to be part of that, again, give us a call. Our specific asks around things like donating devices, you know, we've got an organisation that we work really closely with who can take in old devices and wipe them and get them redistributed out to organisations. We've had some amazing donations recently. Big shout out to Brentwood Prep School and County Broadband, and they've basically donated in some tech that what we can do is we can now put this into an organisation or a space, train up some digital champions and get that whole kind of space up and running, and hopefully in time for a big event that's coming up soon, Get Online Week. But if not, we'll run it in dribs and drabs before so that we have something to shout out about anyway. So yeah, loads and loads of opportunities. If there are things on there that I haven't covered that you'd like to get involved with, again, I'm all ears. I think that's it.
I was going to say, I can always pop your contact email into the follow-up with the recording, so then people want to reach out to you directly, they've got your contact details to hand. So I think we should just kick off with some questions in the Q&A. We've got about 10 minutes left, so it'd be good to cover these. So we have a question from Mol. So how do you overcome connection issues when supplying devices such as laptops? You use dongles?
Oh, so that's a really good one. Yes, you can do that. It's costly. So one of the organisations that I mentioned at the start of this, hopefully you won't kill me now for saying this. So we had a conversation ages ago. So this is Chris from Simpal, an amazing charity. And I said to him, look, you do realise now you've told me about what you do, I am going to tell other people, so you may have way too much business. And he said, oh, no, fine, just tell people about our organisation, it's fine. So I would suggest having a conversation with Chris from Simpal. They're on LinkedIn, but if you want to connect up with me afterwards, I can do any intro for you. And Chris's team originally started out as a cancer charity to support people with cancer with connectivity. Anybody with cancer with connectivity, so they can provide mobile devices, they can provide SIM cards. They're now part of the Good Things Foundation National Data Bank through us. And they also provide MiFis. So this is an ability to connect people up with like Wi-Fi wherever they are. So he started off providing that to kids with cancer in hospital where the connectivity was poor, so that they could connect and play like their Super Mario Kart with each other and stuff. So I would suggest trying that route first. Hopefully, like I said, Chris won't kill me. He's usually pleased when I connect him. But he's absolutely fabulous in what he does. And like Trini from London, Trini London, he's got this boundless energy. So I would start with that first.
I was going to say, I've come across Chris on social media as well. He's doing some incredible work and some brilliant case studies as well. So big up, Chris. We've got another question from Francis. So where does responsibility for the coordination of the digital offer lie within Essex County Council? Like, which department takes that lead?
That's a really interesting question. So I'm the digital inclusion lead, and I operate across two different teams, tech services and also Digital Essex, which is under sustainable growth, which is a really cool place to be because I have access to lots of stuff and lots of support and lots of help. It kind of falls with me, but I never start anything until I've had conversations. Like I've said, I don't kind of go, oh, we've got this money, I want to put it there. I look at what happens and have conversations on a local basis. So that's with all of our 12 boroughs and districts. And then we've got our unitary authority, South End and Thurrock, that we have these conversations with and say, guys, what are you doing? We've got this, and would you like any support and help? So although the responsibility lies with me, it's in collaboration and communication always with our districts and boroughs and our unitary authorities first. Hopefully I have done that justice.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, definitely. So we have another question from Glyn. So when you say about an app for how to access internet and equipment and support in Essex, how do non-digital informed individuals access that?
That is a fabulous question. And I always say, when I say the caveat about the Padlet tool that we've got, the online map, yes, I know it's online, and the irony of that is not lost on me. But we have to work with our local organisations. So it's in our libraries, it's with our community volunteering service. They know about it, they're using it, they're supporting around it. So if somebody presents with a need to them, they access it and support and use that as a signposting tool to kind of move forward. And the digital triaging tool will be used in exactly the same way. So yeah, the irony of a digital tool for digital exclusion is not lost.
The same for the Digital Poverty Alliance. We're fully remote, so almost entirely based online. But exactly that, it's your partners and connections that you have that can enable you to reach the people that you need to reach. There's another question from Salim here. So can you share if Essex are connected with the ICB and healthcare providers to manage digital disparities and how this is working? They need to see partners with local authorities and the NHS, and vulnerable patients, especially those in low income and coping with mental health, are in particular need of digital support.
Absolutely. So yes, we have 3 NHS ICBs on our patch. We have Mid and South Essex, we have Herts and West Essex, and we have Suffolk and North East Essex. We're in conversations with them around what we're doing, the digital triaging tool, bringing them on board, having conversations, how can we work with GPs more closely? How can we get make sure that things are better connected? But we also have other partners, for example, Health Watch and Frontline, who sort of have amazing volunteers that are out there in the community that can also support around health and digital literacy. And we have health and digital literacy volunteers that are trained at working in our libraries. So their role is to kind of provide residents that kind of come to them with a need to say, right, I'm in this local area, I don't know where to go for support, I'm struggling, where do I go? But I also don't have the digital skills to be able to access the things that people are telling me I need to do. And then they sort of help and support and train them with that. And that's linked in with health inequalities data. So, for example, if in Malden, they were saying, the health inequalities data says that, X amount of people are struggling with X in that local area, then the information that could be pushed to a person that comes to see a health and digital literacy champion might be towards tackling that particular issue. Like if it's obesity, then these are the places we can send to you for support with helping you to tackle that, etc. They all use the NHS app. And actually there's a really good piece to hear recently that there's a lady that I follow on LinkedIn called Carrie Rose, who's talked about YouTube actually looking at fake news around health and helping to tackle that. So that's going to be brilliant, because fake news around health is terrible. So if we can have more like this, that would be great. Anyone who's listening and works in that space, please help. So yes, we do work really closely with our ICBs. We are looking at digital transformations, your patient records, accessibility, all of those types of things. And they're going to be part of our stakeholder conversations when we look at those working groups as well.
Brilliant. That was very comprehensive, and it's brilliant to hear about the health specific struggles that people have, because I can imagine they're quite niche. So to have people on hand who really know and understand that field is so important. I think we've got time for one final question before we log off. So question from John Duncan.
John.
How have you found engaging with local politicians on digital inclusion? Have you engaged with MPs? Who you're aware of that you work and could champion it?
Oh, in Essex, we are super lucky to have two very, very fabulous councillors who we work with very closely. We've got the lovely Councillor Louise McKinley, and we've got Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Cunningham's focus is more on connectivity, and Councillor Louise focuses on digital inclusion. She was, both of them were at this amazing event we did yesterday in Harlow, which is all sort of about cost of living crisis and how we can support local communities on all sorts of different things. And we pulled together a load of partners, and it was brilliant. They are very, very engaged with what we do. We keep them informed on a regular basis. And just recently, Councillor, I can't stop smiling about this because it's amazing, Councillor McKinley enabled us to work with Brentwood Prep that I mentioned earlier. It's in her local patch, and she used to go to Brentwood Prep and has a great relationship with them still, and they've done this donation, and now we're going to be looking at doing other amazing stuff. So we are really lucky, but I think a lot of the luck also comes from the fact that we are very communicative, and we do have those conversations regularly with our local councillors, and also wider as well. So I've never been afraid by authority, luckily. So I will go and have those conversations. I'm quite happy to do that, but they're so lovely. So it makes my job so much easier.
Brilliant. And I think it also ties back to that sort of human impact and the real people behind the issue. I think it sort of gets that message and the actual problem across to people when you present them with real life individuals and their circumstances and the impact that your work has done. So kudos to Essex County Council. It's been wonderful to hear about all the work you've been doing, and I'm excited we maybe do a catch up in a couple of months' time and hear more about all of the pilot schemes that you've been up to. So finally, just a couple of call to action from us. So obviously it's End Digital Poverty Day today. We've got plenty more events coming up. Just pop in the chat the agenda for the day, lots of events, virtual and in person. So take a look at the all of the things coming up. We've also got our community hub here. Please do join us, continue the conversation. Like I say, there's so many like-minded individuals from so many different industries that we can all learn from. So please do join our community there. And then finally, Jess mentioned our national delivery plan, which is a roadmap to end digital poverty by 2030. So do take a look at that. Have a look at how you might be able to support and get involved. And yeah, pleasure of support. And brilliant. Yeah, thank you so much for your time today, Jess. It's been super insightful, and I'm sure everyone will agree that I've learned a lot today. So
thank you so much. I just want to say you're an amazing host as well. Stephen Butler's nothing on you.
Thank you very much, Stephen Butler. Watch this space.
Absolutely.
All right. Cheers, Jess, and thank you everyone else for coming along.
Thanks.
Bye.